Well, many of us know cancer touches millions of lives every year, and breast cancer in particular. It remains isn't one of the most common types that affects women, but we're talking about lymphoma. I want to welcome in Kimberly, Carson, CEO of Breast Cancer Canada. We talk about cancer touching so many lives. It's that thing that doesn't discriminate. It impacts so many people. And when it comes to breast cancer and screening and finding out about these things, we've come so far, but we have so much further to go. Talk to me about, what we're working on today, where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Breast Cancer Canada just launched their progress report, which is our annual report that gives just sort of a snapshot of what's happening right across the country. And, it's interesting to see as we do this, in our second year, we're using the voice of the patients, the voice of the experts, and then a public opinion poll. So what we're finding and what we're seeing is that we are making progress, which is fantastic. We're really happy to report on that, but there's still a long way to go. There's some gaps in, timeliness mostly.
And I do think it's important to hear from the people that are directly impacted, because it is important to have the doctors. It's important to hear the research, but you want to hear from the people that are actually living through this, and as well as their families. Talk to me about the screening age and equity in screening, because that's also a barrier that a lot of people have to face. If you don't have a family history, but something just doesn't feel right, how do we kind of bridge that gap?
Absolutely. Mammography is still our first line of defense, although we're happy to report, and you'll see in the progress report, that we are anticipating some different types of screening coming in the very near future. We'll maybe start to make it a little more equitable, being able to get into those more remote places. On Ontario, they did a fantastic job last year of lowering the screening age to 40. A number of other provinces now have followed along as well. We're still working with the federal government, asking them to make 40 the number that's achievable for everyone, and we're still looking at Quebec and Alberta a little bit behind everyone else. But it's great to know, and it's great to see that we've made progress on that. If women are not feeling 100%, they know their body's best.
Yeah.
So present. Make sure you go to, your primary caregiver if you have one, and if not, certainly you can self-refer in most of the provinces to get that mammogram done.
Why is it important to lower that screening age? Because I feel like, we've seen this with colon cancer to a certain degree, talking about screening happening earlier on, because so many people under the age of 50 are coming up with breast cancer, coming up with things like colon cancer, but we're not necessarily in that category to be screened just yet. Why is it so important to lower that age?
Yeah, so the standard has always sort of been, if we think that women over the age of 60 were getting breast cancer, then 10 years lower would be the primary goal. But now we're seeing, as you said, much younger people getting cancer. We've got a roster of a number of young women getting breast cancer. So we are advocating very hard to see that screening age being lowered to 40.
We've seen so much research and development happen, but early detection, I think, really is key. When it comes to self-exams, as you mentioned, women know their bodies best, and you're getting ready every single day. You're in the shower. You know yourself really, really well. How do we continue to take on some of that ourselves? Because again, you have to advocate for yourself in almost every circumstance. But how do we kind of start that with us and then take it on to that next level?
I think what we do is exactly that, right? Know your body well. Know that, you are the one that's empowered to advocate for yourself. And certainly, don't let any primary caregiver tell you that you're too young to have breast cancer, because there is no such thing. And I think that's the important message. And, we're looking at diverse cultures where they're maybe not so comfortable with those thoughts.
Yeah, there are a lot of cultural barriers, and depending on the group that you're a part of, sometimes those conversations are still very taboo, or there just isn't a lot of research done, or you don't know what to look for if you have a different color skin tone. So sometimes I feel like there's that bit of a barrier there within ourselves and the greater medical community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Breast Cancer Canada does have tools on our website that people can use, so that they don't necessarily have to have that first question to a medical professional or to their friends or et cetera. That gives them some kind of idea of what they should be looking for. So we encourage everyone to, please, we know that early detection saves lives. The earlier we catch it, the better the results, the less invasive, the less traumatic, and the better the outcome.
I know, obviously, the research we have includes the doctors, the research side, but also the people. Why was it important to include the people that are directly impacted and that are living through it and fighting through it?
100%. Breast Cancer Canada believes that you should always have the patient voice at the table. The whole thing is about no conversations about us without us, and we advocate for that all of the time. And we're advocating for that on a number of different levels, at policy levels, at regulatory levels, in our research, any of our calls for grants. That's all about having a patient voice and making it known that the patient understands what the research is and why it's going to affect their lives. So lots of progress to be made, but we're doing really well. And certainly the research that we're doing here in Canada is so groundbreaking. I'm so proud of what we do here in Canada. I know Breast Cancer Canada is funding like 34 different places across this country, and we are really making a difference. Our experts are world renowned, and they get flown around the world to talk about breast cancer research. So we should be really proud of what we're doing.
And we are. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for coming in and sharing this information. Early detection. Take care of yourself.